Hi, I'm Nick Johnson,
And I'm Katrina Anderson.
and we're here to look at the latest developments in relation to food law in the UK, and in particular, plans for further restrictions on foods that are high in fat, salt, sugar. Katrina, these latest developments come out of the latest Queen's speech, don't they?
They do, yes. So, as part of the Queen's speech, that we heard that the government is definitely planning to bring in legislation in this Parliament to bring into effect a watershed ban and also a total online ban on adverts for these foods which are high in fat, salt, and sugar.
And do we know when the ban is proposed to take effect?
Yes, we do. They're proposing in April 2022 start the ban, which will be in line with the calorie labeling for out of home foods.
And in terms of other detail around the ban, what do we know?
I mean, the Queen's speech didn't tell us a lot. We obviously have the output from the latest consultation, which told us that the government's thinking at that time was there would be restrictions on foods which were classified as HFSS, but also fell into the Public Health England reformulation categories. And this ban online would be quite comprehensive, and it would only have some very narrow carve outs for e-commerce. And they were also even proposing to set up a new, quite powerful regulator. But all of this was the proposal. It may change when we see the final legislation, and there's some reason to think that it will change as a result of other changes with Public Health England coming to an end.
You mentioned a carve out for e-commerce. What will sellers of these products be able to do in terms of online information?
It will be quite limited. They've said it would be factual information only. So we're anticipating that would mean that any mandatory information that you'd put on a product label, you'd almost certainly be able to put online. But you would be restricted from using any kind of marketing messages or any sort of additional communication to try and sell that product.
So you mentioned a new regulator. Do we have any sense as to how that regulator will interact with the ASA, or indeed who the regulator would be?
Well, the proposals seem to suggest that the new regulator would be effectively a backstop for the ISA, much like trading standards is generally, or someone like the Gambling Commission is for specific gambling advertising rules. So we would anticipate that that regulator would be that backstop for anything to do with HFSS regulation. There's no indication at this stage as to what body that would be, but the interesting point that did come out of the proposal is there is a suggestion that that regulator would have the power to issue civil fines, which would go beyond the power of most backstop regulators in the advertising world. So it's quite a radical proposal.
And in terms of sports sponsorship by these food brands, will this have an impact?
Almost certainly. I mean, the current proposals don't say that there will be any particular prohibition on sports sponsorship, but obviously, when you sponsor a sport as a brand, you often do things like social media support. You would expect to be able to put material on your website, and all of those, if you like, supplementary activities that build on your sponsorship and help you get the most value out of it will be affected by these restrictions. I think it's also worth noting that in a recent speech, Chris Whitty, who is going to head up the new department which replaces Public Health England, mentioned that he has particular concerns around HFSS brands sponsoring sports. So that may inform the direction of travel here, and it's even possible. He was talking about future regulation, that there could actually be specific regulation in this area.
What's next then in terms of this legislation, and when are we likely to know more?
Well, I mean, if we are looking at a ban that's coming in April 2022, so less than a year ago away, we will be expecting to see some draft legislation relatively soon. It is being reported in the press that we're expecting to see more details of the exact nature of the ban in the next few weeks. So we're hoping to get details of how the government's thinking has moved on as a result of changes with Public Health England and such like shortly, and that will very much frame what's happening.
Thank you very much, Katrina. And there you have it. Expect to hear more soon. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Nick.